Over 49 confirmed victims. The terror that gripped Washington state during the late 20th century was unlike anything the region had ever seen. The sheer scale of the crimes left the community in shock and fear. One of America's most notorious serial killers. The headlines screamed of a monster on the loose, a predator who seemed unstoppable. The media frenzy only added to the public's anxiety. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, terrorized Washington state. His face became synonymous with fear, his name a byword for evil. Ridgway's mugshot and court sketches are now infamous, etched into the annals of criminal history. He was active in the 1980s and 1990s. His targets? Vulnerable women. These were often women who were already marginalized by society, making them easy prey for a predator like Ridgway. Often from backgrounds of drugs or sex work, these women were living on the fringes, struggling with addiction or working in the sex trade, making them less likely to be missed immediately. Ridgway confessed to killing 71 individuals. His confessions were chilling, revealing a methodical and remorseless killer who took advantage of his victims' vulnerabilities. But he was only convicted of 49 murders. The legal system could only hold him accountable for a fraction of his admitted crimes, leaving many families without closure. His method was cold and calculated. He lured victims. Ridgway would gain their trust, often posing as a potential client before leading them to their doom. Then he disposed of their bodies in the Green River. The river became a grim symbol of his reign of terror, a watery grave for many of his victims. In 2003, justice was served. After years of evading capture, Ridgway was finally brought to justice, offering a semblance of relief to the tormented community. He was sentenced to 49 life terms without parole. This ensured that he would never walk free again, a small comfort to the families of his victims. It was a plea deal. In exchange for his confessions, Ridgway avoided the death penalty, a controversial decision that sparked much debate. Authorities believe there are more victims out there, unidentified. The true extent of Ridgway's crimes may never be known, as many of his victims remain missing or unidentified. Unsolved cases haunt the region. The spectre of the Green River Killer looms large, with cold cases continuing to plague law enforcement. The Green River Killer case is one of the most horrific in American history. Its impact on the collective psyche of the nation is profound, a dark chapter that will not be forgotten. The sheer number of victims is staggering. Memorials and vigils serve as a somber reminder of the lives lost and the families shattered by Ridgway's actions. The brutality of the crimes is chilling. Each act of violence was a calculated move in Ridgway's twisted game, leaving a trail of horror in its wake. The case left an unforgettable mark on law enforcement and the community. The lessons learned from this dark period continue to influence how authorities handle similar cases today, ensuring that the victim's suffering was not in vain. Gary Ridgway was born in Salt Lake City, Utah in 1949. His childhood was troubled. There were signs of what was to come. He had a difficult relationship with his overbearing mother. He displayed disturbing behavior. This included cruelty to animals and a fascination with fire. As a teenager, Ridgway struggled with his sexuality. He had conflicting feelings about women. He harbored repressed anger. These issues would later manifest in the most horrific way imaginable. He dropped out of high school. He joined the Navy, but his troubles followed him. He served in Vietnam. He saw combat. It did little to quell the darkness that resided within him. Ridgway's crimes were calculated and brutal. He preyed on women on the margins of society, runaways, prostitutes, drug addicts. He used his knowledge of the Seattle-Tacoma area to his advantage. He picked up victims in areas known for prostitution. He often returned to the same spots. This made it difficult for law enforcement to track his movements. He gained their trust. He used charm and promises of drugs or money. He would then drive them to secluded areas. There he would unleash his rage. He often strangled his victims. Sometimes he used ligatures. He disposed of their bodies in and around the Green River. He posed some of his victims. This was a way to taunt the police. The women targeted by Ridgway were often overlooked by society. They were daughters, mothers and sisters. They were human beings. They deserved justice. Many of them were struggling with addiction. Others were escaping abusive homes. They were trying to survive. Ridgway exploited their vulnerability. He used their circumstances against them. Their disappearances left families shattered. The lack of answers only amplified their pain. The Green River Killer case became a stark reminder of the dangers faced by marginalized women. It highlighted the need for greater awareness and support for vulnerable populations. Section 5. The Green River Task Force, a race against time. The Green River Killer case quickly overwhelmed local law enforcement. The sheer number of victims was staggering, and the lack of physical evidence was frustrating. In response, a special task force was formed. It was made up of detectives and investigators from multiple agencies. Their goal was clear: stop the killings and bring the perpetrator to justice. The task force pursued every lead. They conducted countless interviews and followed up on thousands of tips. The pressure was immense. The case became a national obsession. The killer, however, remained elusive. Section 6. A breakthrough in the case DNA evidence and a chilling confession. For years, the Green River Killer case remained unsolved. The community lived in fear, and the families of the victims were left without answers. The task force, however, never gave up. They worked tirelessly, sifting through evidence and following every lead, no matter how small. In the late 1990s, advances in DNA technology provided a glimmer of hope. These technological breakthroughs allowed forensic scientists to re-examine old evidence with new eyes. Samples collected from several victims were re-examined. The meticulous work of the lab technicians was crucial in this process. They matched DNA from Gary Ridgway, a man who'd been living quietly in the community. He had been a suspect early on in the investigation, but he had slipped through the cracks. The initial evidence was not enough to hold him. In 2001, Ridgway was arrested. The arrest was a significant moment for the task force and the community. He was charged with 4 counts of aggravated murder. The charges were just the beginning of uncovering the full extent of his crimes. Faced with overwhelming evidence, he struck a deal. The deal was a turning point in the case. In exchange for life in prison without parole, he agreed to confess to every murder he committed. This agreement spared him the death penalty. What followed was a series of chilling confessions. Ridgway detailed his horrific acts with a disturbing calmness. Ridgway provided details that only the killer would know. His confessions were both shocking and revealing. He led investigators to the remains of several victims. These discoveries brought some closure to the families who had been waiting for answers for decades. Section 7. Justice served. Ridgway's plea deal and sentencing. In 2003, Gary Ridgway was sentenced to 49 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. His guilty plea spared him the death penalty. It also brought a sense of closure to the families of his victims. Some, however, felt that justice had not been fully served. They argued that Ridgway deserved to die for his crimes. The plea deal was controversial, but it ensured that Ridgway would spend the rest of his life behind bars. It also allowed investigators to close numerous cold cases. The Green River Killer case remains a haunting reminder of the capacity for human evil. Section 8. Unanswered questions. The mystery of the unidentified victims. Despite Ridgway's confession, not all of the Green River Killer's victims have been identified. Several sets of remains found in the area remain a mystery. This is a source of ongoing pain for families who still hope to find answers. It is a stark reminder that the case is far from closed. Law enforcement continues to work tirelessly to identify the remaining victims. They use DNA technology and other forensic tools to unravel the mysteries that remain. The search for answers is a testament to the enduring impact of Ridgway's crimes. Section 9. The legacy of the Green River Killer, a community forever scarred. The Green River Killer case cast a long shadow over the Pacific Northwest. The serene landscapes and tranquil skies of the region were forever tainted by the horrific events that unfolded. The once peaceful communities now carry the weight of a dark history that will never be forgotten. It left an indelible mark on the families of the victims. The pain and sorrow experienced by these families are immeasurable as they grapple with the loss of their loved ones. Each photograph held, each tear shed, is a testament to the enduring impact of the tragedy. It also had a profound impact on law enforcement and the community as a whole. The case challenged the capabilities of the police force, pushing them to their limits as they sought to bring the perpetrator to justice. Community meetings and press conferences became a common sight as the public demanded answers and reassurance. The case highlighted the vulnerability of women on the margins of society. It brought to light the dangers faced by those who are often overlooked and forgotten. The fear and uncertainty that gripped these women were palpable as they navigated a world that seemed increasingly hostile. It underscored the need for greater awareness and support for at-risk populations. Community support groups and shelters became lifelines for many, offering a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak situation. Awareness campaigns were launched to educate the public and provide resources for those in need. The legacy of the Green River Killer is a complex one. It is a story woven with threads of horror, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Newspaper headlines and courtroom sketches serve as stark reminders of the events that transpired, while timelines help piece together the long and arduous journey towards resolution. It is a story of loss, grief, and resilience. The community came together in the face of adversity, holding candlelight vigils and offering support to one another. These acts of solidarity and compassion highlighted the strength and unity of the human spirit. It is also a story of the unwavering pursuit of justice. Detectives and police officers worked tirelessly, sifting through files and evidence, determined to bring closure to the victims' families. The courtroom trials were a testament to their dedication and commitment to upholding the law. The case serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope and humanity can prevail. The sunrise over the city symbolizes a new beginning, a chance for the community to heal and move forward. People came together, looking towards a future filled with hope and possibility. It also reminds us that the work of seeking justice for the victims of violent crime is never truly finished. The scales of justice and the judge's gavel symbolize the ongoing quest for fairness and accountability. The legacy of the Green River Killer serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of vigilance and compassion in our pursuit of a just society.